I sat in the conference room, being called the last cookie in the jar. Easily replaceable, forgettable. 4 weeks later, they wished they'd chosen silence instead of humiliating me in front of 18 people and a live microphone. My finger hovered over the tweet button, knowing this single click would cost them $2.6 million. They called me replaceable. But replaceable people don't bring down empires with 280 characters and a hashtag. My name is Madeline Sawyer, and I'm about to destroy the company that tried to erase me. The cursor blinks mockingly on my screen, waiting for me to unleash what I've been crafting for weeks. Outside my apartment window, Denver's skyline glitters in the evening light, the same view I used to admire from Valentra Digital's 14th floor office. Back when I believed hard work and talent meant something. I take a sip of cold coffee and read my tweet one more time. Ever had a company call you replaceable? Then use your strategy, ignore your security warnings, and put client data at risk? TheraCore. Health? You might want to check where your ads are running. Revenge unlocked. Attached are 3 screenshots. My ignored security memo, the email thread where I outlined the entire TheraCore strategy, and the audio transcript from that meeting, the meeting where everything changed. They don't know yet that I've built an audience of 12,000 marketing professionals under an anonymous handle. They don't know I've spent 6 weeks documenting every dismissed warning, every stolen idea, every moment they pushed me aside. They certainly don't know about the catastrophic security flaw in their ad platform, the one I warned them about 3 times. But they're about to. I close my eyes and I'm back in that conference room 4 weeks ago, the smell of burnt coffee and masculine cologne. Nick Harmon's voice cutting through my presentation like a rusty knife. The laughter that followed, the way my boss, Janet, wouldn't meet my eyes afterward. Don't take it personally, Madeline, she'd said later. It's just business. Just business. Like the 4 years I'd spent building their content strategy from nothing was just business. Like the 60-hour weeks during the TheraCore pitch were just business. Like being the only woman in senior meetings who actually knew what she was talking about was just business. My phone buzzes. Sarah from HR, probably wondering why I haven't responded to the exit interview request. I've been gone 2 weeks, and they're still trying to control the narrative, still trying to make this clean and quiet. But I'm done being quiet. I think about the $2.6 million contract they're about to sign with TheraCore next week. The celebration dinner Nick probably has planned at that overpriced steakhouse where he takes all his wins. The promotion he'll get for leading the strategy I created. My finger hovers over tweet in 4 hours when East Coast social media managers are settling in with their morning coffee. This will be the first thing they see. By lunch, it'll be trending in marketing Twitter. By close of business, TheraCore's security team will be asking very uncomfortable questions, and Valentra Digital will finally understand that some people can't be replaced. Some people burn the whole thing down on their way out. I hit send. I'm Madeline Sawyer, 34, originally from Flagstaff, Arizona, though that feels like a lifetime ago now. Back then, I was the girl who thought talent and dedication would be enough. The one who believed that if you worked twice as hard as everyone else, eventually they'd have to notice. At Valentra Digital, I was head of content strategy. Sounds impressive, right? On paper, maybe. In reality, I was the woman who built frameworks that made other people millions while being told to smile more in meetings. The company occupied 3 floors of a gleaming downtown Denver high-rise, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, startup chic masquerading as innovation. Our CEO, Marcus Valentra, loved to give tours to potential clients, pointing out the ping pong table no one had time to use and the kombucha tap that mostly just attracted fruit flies. We're disrupting healthcare marketing, he'd say. While the actual disruption came from people like me, hunched over laptops at 11 p.m., making his vision somehow work. Valentra Digital was a special kind of hell wrapped in free snacks and unlimited PTO that no one ever took. It was the kind of place where collaborative culture meant men talking over you in meetings, and flat hierarchy meant the boys' club just operated without official titles. Where every woman had a story about being mistaken for an assistant, and every assistant had a story about being treated like furniture. I'd joined 4 years ago, lured by the promise of unlimited creative freedom and the chance to work with major healthcare brands. What I found instead was a testosterone-fueled echo chamber where good ideas went to die unless they came from someone with the right chromosomes and the right golf handicap. The Browers, as I privately called them, ruled the roost. There was Tyler, our creative director, who once spent an entire client meeting explaining my own campaign concept back to me. Brad from account management, who'd accidentally left me off meeting invites so many times it became a running joke. And Derek, our VP of operations, who loved to start sentences with, "well, actually," whenever a woman spoke. But none of them compared to Nick Harmon. Nick joined 6 months ago as Deputy Director of Communications, brought in from some boutique agency in Manhattan where he'd, apparently, revolutionized pharma marketing. He was everything Valentra loved: loud, confident, and equipped with an MBA from Wharton that he mentioned at least once per conversation. Tall, conventionally handsome in that generic Kennedy cousin way, with perfectly styled hair that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. From day one, Nick made it clear he saw me as competition to eliminate, not a colleague to work with. He'd schedule urgent meetings during my presentations. He'd follow up my emails with his own clarifications that somehow always repositioned my ideas as his. He had this way of nodding thoughtfully when I spoke, then immediately pivoting to build on what I'd said until my original point was buried under his avalanche of buzzwords. "Madeline's got the right instinct," he'd say, "but let me paint the bigger picture here." The TheraCore Health Project was supposed to be mine. I'd nurtured that relationship for 2 years, turning their skeptical marketing team into believers with carefully crafted campaigns that actually moved the needle. When they decided to consolidate their digital marketing with a single agency, a contract worth $2.6 million annually, I knew we had a real shot. I spent 3 months building the pitch. Nights, weekends, even my supposed vacation time. I analyzed their competition, identified gaps in their digital presence, created a comprehensive strategy that would position them as thought leaders in therapeutic innovation. I even identified potential security vulnerabilities in their current ad platform setup, details that showed we cared about protecting their reputation, not just taking their money. The pitch deck was my masterpiece. 127 slides of strategic brilliance, creative concepts, and ROI projections that made even our CFO whistle appreciatively. I'd thought of everything. Except for Nick, he started small, suggesting minor tweaks to my presentation, insisting on being copied on all TheraCore communications for visibility, scheduling preparatory meetings where he'd question every decision while offering no actual alternatives. Classic undermining disguised as collaboration. Then came the partner dinner 3 weeks before the pitch, a crucial relationship-building opportunity with TheraCore's C-suite. I'd been preparing talking points for days. The morning of the dinner, Janet pulled me aside. "Change of plans. Nick's going to take lead on the dinner tonight. But I've been managing this relationship for, I know, Madeline. But the client specifically requested senior leadership presence. Nick had been there 6 months. I'd been there 4 years. But he had something I didn't, the right anatomy and the implicit trust that came with it. That night, while I sat at home eating takeout, Nick was at Elway's Steakhouse, using my talking points and my insights to charm executives I'd spent 2 years cultivating. The next morning, he sent a company-wide email about the fantastic progress he'd made with TheraCore. He even thanked me at the bottom. Couldn't have done it without Madeline's background research. Background research, 2 years of relationship building reduced to background research. But I swallowed it. I always swallowed it. Because that's what professional women do. Right? We smile, we persevere. We lean in until our backs break from the effort. I told myself the actual pitch was what mattered. That was where I'd shine. That was where 2 years of understanding TheraCore's needs would trump Nick's 6 months of smooth talking. I should have known better. At Valentra Digital, talent was never enough, not if you were replaceable. The morning of March 15th started like any other, until it became the day that changed everything. The TheraCore pitch was scheduled for 10 a.m. I'd been in the office since 6, running through the deck one final time, checking every transition, every data point. My section, the Digital Strategy Deep Dive, was slides 45 through 78. I knew every pixel, every metric, every strategic rationale by heart. At 9:45, the conference room filled with the usual suspects. Marcus at the head of the table, of course. Janet to his right, nervously clicking her pen. The bros scattered around, checking phones and adjusting their identical navy blazers. Nick sat directly across from where I'd set up, wearing that smirk that made my skin crawl. The TheraCore team dialed in right on time. 6 executives on the video screen, including their CMO, Patricia Hendricks, a woman I'd carefully cultivated a relationship with over dozens of calls. "Patricia, so good to see you." Nick jumped in before I could speak. As I mentioned at dinner, we're excited to share our vision for TheraCore's digital transformation. Our vision. I felt my jaw clench. The pitch began smoothly. Marcus handled the introductions. Tyler presented the creative concepts. Brad walked through the budget projections. Then came my moment. "Now, Madeline will share our digital strategy," Janet announced. I stood, clicker in hand, ready to show them the framework I'd spent months perfecting. But as I advanced to slide 46, Nick interrupted. "Actually, before Madeline dives into the tactical weeds, let me provide some strategic context." Tactical weeds. My comprehensive strategy reduced to weeds. He stood, smoothing his tie, and began talking. Not just talking, presenting my ideas as if they'd sprung fully formed from his Wharton-educated brain. The audience segmentation I developed became Nick's consumer insight pyramid. The content ecosystem I'd mapped became his revolutionary engagement framework. I stood there, clicker growing slick in my palm, watching him steal 3 months of my work in real time. The worst part? He was good at it. He'd clearly studied every detail, every nuance. He'd taken my substance and wrapped it in his style, his confidence, his maleness that made everyone lean in just a little more. When he finally stopped, 20 minutes had passed. My time was gone. "Madeline can quickly cover the implementation timeline," he said, gesturing magnanimously. Though really, the strategy is what matters. Execution is the easy part. I had 5 minutes to compress 33 slides. 5 minutes to cover the technical infrastructure, the security protocols, the phased rollout plan that would make or break the entire program. One thing, I managed to interject. There's a critical security vulnerability in the current programmatic setup that we need to. "We can handle technical details in the follow-up," Nick cut in. "Let's not bog down our partners with IT concerns." Marcus nodded approvingly. "Good call. Keep it high level, Madeline." I rushed through what I could, my carefully crafted presentation butchered into bullet points. The TheraCore executives asked a few questions, all directed at Nick, who answered them using my research, my insights, my words. Then came the moment that would echo in my mind for weeks after. Patricia asked, "Who would be our primary contact on this account?" Nick didn't hesitate. "I'll be leading the team personally. Madeline here will handle the day-to-day execution. Of course, she's..." He paused, letting out a small chuckle that made my stomach turn. "How do I put this? She's like the last cookie in the jar, reliable. Always there when you need her. Easily replaceable if necessary, but useful to have around." The room laughed. That polite, corporate laugh that follows casual cruelty wrapped in humor. Marcus grinned. Brad actually slapped the table. Even Janet cracked a smile. Easily replaceable. The words hung in the air like smog. I felt 18 pairs of eyes on me, half pitying, half dismissive. On the screen. Patricia's expression flickered with something that might have been discomfort, but she said nothing. I stood there, frozen. My entire career reduced to a stale baked good metaphor. 4 years of innovation, of exceeding every target, of building strategies that generated millions in revenue. All of it meaningless because I was just another woman in a room full of men who'd already decided my worth. Well, Nick continued, riding high on the room's energy, we're all about team effort here. Though between us, the real strategic thinking happens at the leadership level. He winked at the screen. Actually winked. The call ended 15 minutes later with promises to circle back early next week. As TheraCore signed off, Nick was already shaking hands with Marcus, accepting congratulations for nailing the pitch. I gathered my materials in silence, the last cookie comment still ringing in my ears. As I headed for the door, Janet called out, Madeline, can you send Nick your detailed files? He'll need everything for the follow-up meetings. Of course he would, because easily replaceable cookies don't get invited to follow-up meetings. That night, I sat in my apartment, laptop open, staring at the folder containing 2 years of TheraCore work. My mouse hovered over the security vulnerability report, the one Nick had dismissed as ET concerns. They wanted me to be replaceable? Fine. But they were about to learn that some cookies leave one hell of a bitter aftertaste. And the 3 days following that pitch meeting taught me everything I needed to know about my value to Valentra Digital. First came the email from Marcus, sent to all staff at 8:47 a.m. Monday morning. Thrilled to announce that thanks to Nick Harmon's exceptional leadership, we're advancing to final negotiations with TheraCore Health. This perfectly demonstrates our collaborative culture in action. My name appeared nowhere in the message. By lunch, I'd been removed from the TheraCore Slack channel. Streamlining communications, Janet explained when I asked. Nick wants to maintain a single point of contact moving forward. Tuesday brought the real knife twist. I arrived to find my desk supplies being boxed up by maintenance. Oh, didn't anyone tell you? Derek from operations looked genuinely puzzled. We're relocating you to the annex. Nick needs to be closer to the creative team for the TheraCore implementation. The annex, a glorified storage room converted to overflow workspace, where they stuck interns and people they were hoping would quit. No windows, no air circulation. Just fluorescent lights and the constant hum of the server room next door. But it was Wednesday that broke something inside me. I'd spent Tuesday night creating a comprehensive transition document, partly out of professionalism, mostly to ensure there was a paper trail of my contributions. 47 pages detailing every client preference, every strategic decision, every relationship nuance that had taken 2 years to build. Including, on page 23, another warning about the security vulnerability in their programmatic ad setup. I sent it to Nick, CCing Janet and Marcus. Subject line, TheraCore Transition Documentation. Please review security concerns on page 23. Nick's response came within minutes. Thanks for the notes. I've got it from here. That was it. No acknowledgement of the security warning. No questions about the detailed insights. Just dismissal disguised as confidence. I forwarded the email to Patricia at TheraCore, trying one last time to protect the client relationship I'd built. Hi, Patricia. Congratulations on moving forward with Valentra. I wanted to ensure you received the complete strategic documentation, including some technical considerations that need immediate attention. Please see page 23 regarding potential vulnerabilities in your current ad serving setup. Her response was professionally devastating. Hi, Madeline. Nick Harmon has asked that all communications go through him moving forward. I forwarded your email to him. Best of luck in your new role. New role. I hadn't been told about any new role. That afternoon, Janet appeared in the annex with her practiced HR smile and a folder that I knew contained nothing good. Madeline, we need to discuss your transition. Transition? With Nick taking lead on our major accounts, we're restructuring the content strategy team. We'd like to offer you a lateral move to content coordination. Lateral. HR speak for demotion. That's a junior position, I said quietly. Same salary, she countered, as if that made it better. You'd be supporting Nick's team with content calendar management and asset trafficking. Asset trafficking, 4 years of strategic leadership reduced to moving files around for the man who'd stolen my work. And if I don't accept, Janet's smile faltered slightly. Well, we'd have to consider that a resignation. The head of content strategy role is being eliminated. There it was. Take the demotion or leave with nothing. No severance for resignations, no unemployment benefits. Just gone, like I'd never mattered at all. I need time to think, I managed. Of course. You have until Friday. After she left, I sat in that windowless room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and opened my laptop. There were 17 emails from various team members asking for historical files, strategy documents, client contacts, everyone scrambling to extract what they needed before I disappeared. I pulled up the security report one more time. The vulnerability was real and dangerous. A misconfigured data management platform that was exposing user behavioral data through their programmatic campaigns. Medical privacy violations waiting to happen. FTC fines, lawsuits, reputation destruction. I'd identified it during my deep dive into their current setup. I'd documented it thoroughly. I'd tried to warn them, and they'd ignored me every single time. My phone buzzed, a LinkedIn notification. 3 former colleagues had viewed my profile in the last hour. Word was already spreading. The vultures were circling, wondering if Madeline Sawyer was finally on the market. Replaceable, expendable, forgettable. I closed my laptop and stared at the bare walls of my new office. Somewhere above me, Nick was probably settling into my old desk, my window view, my 2 years of relationship capital. By Friday, he'd have my job title too. But he didn't have everything. I opened my personal laptop and logged into my cloud storage. Every email, every document, every timestamp showing who really built the TheraCore strategy. And most importantly, the security report with its detailed technical specifications and my repeated attempts to raise the alarm. They wanted me gone? Fine. But I wouldn't go quietly, and I definitely wouldn't go empty-handed. That night, I drafted my resignation letter. Professional, succinct, effective immediately. Then I created a new Twitter account, anonymous, untraceable to my professional identity. If Valentra Digital thought they could erase me, they were about to learn exactly how permanent digital footprints could be. After leaving Valentra Digital, I spent 2 weeks doing what any strategic mind would do, building a weapon they'd never see coming. The Twitter account started simple, digital truth teller, anonymous profile picture, just a stylized eye icon. Bio, 15 years in digital marketing, sharing what they don't want you to know. Generic enough to be anyone, specific enough to be credible. I didn't rush. Revenge, I'd learned, was best served with algorithmic precision. Week 1 was foundation building. I shared industry insights, commented on trending marketing topics, retweeted thought leaders, building credibility one tweet at a time. Your programmatic campaigns might be leaking more than impressions, I wrote, linking to a general article about ad fraud. 17 retweets. Good start. I networked strategically, following marketing directors, privacy advocates, journalists who covered ad tech, engaging thoughtfully with their content, building relationships that would matter later. By week 2, I had 3,000 followers. The marketing Twitter community was hungry for insider perspectives, and I fed them carefully crafted insights. That RFP you lost, it might not have been about price. Garnered 847 likes and dozens of DMs from curious professionals. I dropped breadcrumbs about agency culture. When your agency says we're restructuring, they mean we're protecting the boys' club. That one hit 2,000 retweets. The comments section filled with horror stories from women across the industry. Meanwhile, I watched Valentra's public feeds. Nick was all over LinkedIn, posting about revolutionary strategies and game-changing partnerships. TheraCore's marketing team engaged enthusiastically with every post. The contract signing was scheduled for April 10th, a Thursday. They'd announce it Friday morning for maximum PR impact. I had 3 weeks. I shifted focus to data privacy in healthcare marketing. Posted threads about HIPAA compliance, the dangers of misconfigured DMPs, how programmatic advertising could expose patient data. Each thread meticulously researched, professionally written. Building my expertise publicly. A journalist from Adweek DM'd me. Your privacy threads are fascinating. Would love to discuss for a piece I'm writing. Perfect. I gave him background, no names, no specifics. Just enough to establish myself as a credible source who understood the technical and ethical implications of healthcare advertising. 2 days later, his article quoted a digital truth teller extensively. My follower count jumped to $8,000. I started a weekly thread series. Security vulnerabilities your agency won't tell you about. Each week, I explained a different risk in language accessible to CMOs and CTOs alike. Week 3's topic: data leakage through improperly configured data management platforms in healthcare advertising. The engagement was explosive. Marketing directors sharing with their teams, privacy officers asking follow-up questions, tech journalists requesting interviews, 12,000 followers and climbing. On April 7th, 3 days before the signing, I posted, "Interesting conversation with a healthcare CMO today. They're about to sign a major digital contract, but have no idea their current programmatic setup is exposing user behavioral data. The agency knows but hasn't said anything. Ethics in advertising, right?" The tweet went semi-viral in marketing circles. 5,000 retweets. Hundreds of quote tweets from professionals sharing their own stories of agencies hiding technical problems. Nick posted on LinkedIn that evening. Excited for big announcements coming this week. When you build strategies on solid foundations, success follows. Marketing leadership. Digital transformation. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. April 8th. I crafted the perfect thread. A story about why technical due diligence matters. Agency X pitched Client Y with a brilliant strategy. Client loved it. What client didn't know? Their current setup was hemorrhaging data through a misconfigured DMP. Agency X knew but stayed quiet. Why? Because fixing it wasn't billable. 8. The thread detailed, without names, exactly the kind of vulnerability TheraCore had, how it worked, what data was exposed, the potential HIPAA violations, the FTC fines that could result. The saddest part? Someone at Agency X tried to warn them, multiple times. That person was labeled difficult and pushed out because messenger elimination is easier than problem solving. 7 to 8. So here's my question. Healthcare marketers. When did we decide that landing the contract mattered more than protecting patient privacy? When did easily replaceable become more important than ethically responsible? 88, 18,000 retweets, 45,000 likes. My DMs exploded, including one that made my heart race. This sounds very specific. I'm a journalist with TechCrunch investigating data privacy in healthcare marketing. Can we talk? April 9th, the day before the signing. My follower count had reached 15,000. The thread was still circulating, picking up momentum. I watched Nick's LinkedIn, no new posts. Unusual for him. That evening, Patricia Hendricks from TheraCore followed Setsitsit, digital truth teller. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Everything was in place. The audience, the credibility, the growing unease in healthcare marketing circles about data privacy. All I needed now was the match to light this carefully constructed fire. Tomorrow, Valentra Digital would sign their $2.6 million contract. And tomorrow, I would destroy it with 15 screenshots and a single hashtag. At 9:47 a.m. on April 10th, 13 minutes before Valentra Digital would sign their largest contract ever, I posted the tweet that would end them. Ever had a company call you replaceable? Then use your strategy. Ignore your security warnings and put client data at risk. Orse TheraCore, Sachis, Health. You might want to check where your ads are running. Revenge unlocked. Thread, Tatunsen. March 15th, I presented a digital strategy to TheraCore Health. Halfway through, my colleague Nick Harmon stood up and presented my work as his own. When asked about team roles, he called me the last cookie in the jar, easily replaceable. I attached the audio transcript. 18 people's laughter preserved in digital amber. Thread 210. But here's what matters more than hurt feelings. On slide 67 of my presentation, I warned about a critical security vulnerability in TheraCore's programmatic setup. Nick dismissed it as IT concerns. Management told me not to bog down the client. Screenshot. My original presentation slide highlighting the vulnerability. Thread 3 to 10. I documented this vulnerability 3 times. Email dated March 18th, 23rd, and 29th. Each time dismissed. Nick's got it from here, they said. Screenshots. Email chain showing my warnings and their dismissals. Thread 4-10. So what's the vulnerability? TheraCore's DMP is misconfigured, exposing behavioral health data through their programmatic campaigns. We're talking about patients searching for mental health services, addiction treatment, chronic illness support. Thread 510. This isn't theoretical. I pulled these examples from their live campaigns last week. Patient data being harvested right now. I included redacted but damning evidence, enough to show the severity without violating anyone's actual privacy. Thread 610. Valentra Digital has known for weeks. They're signing a 2.6 MHz contract in 13 minutes. They chose revenue over patient privacy. They chose Nick's ego over ethical responsibility. Thread 7-10. When I tried to protect TheraCore, I was demoted, relocated to a storage room, and told to take a junior position or resign. The head of content strategy role? Eliminated. My 2 years building this relationship? Erased. Screenshot. The offer letter for content coordinator position. Thread 8-10. TheraCore team, Patricia Hendricks. I tried to warn you directly. Nick Harmon intercepted my communications. Your patient's privacy is at risk. Your reputation is at risk. Your trust has been violated. Thread 9-10. To everyone who's ever been called replaceable while watching your work stolen, document everything, build your platform, and when the time comes, light the match. Thread 10-10. Valentra Digital thought they could erase me, but cookies leave crumbs, and some crumbs lead to $2.6 million mistakes. Check your DMPs, folks. Revenge unlocked. Data privacy. Healthcare marketing. Women in tech. I tagged 12 marketing journalists, 4 privacy advocates, and 3 healthcare industry watchdogs. Then I waited. 9:52 a.m. First retweet from our ad tech reporter. Holy shit, this is massive if true. 9:54 a.m. A healthcare privacy watch. We're investigating. This could be the biggest HIPAA violation through programmatic advertising we've seen. 9:57 a.m. My phone rang. Janet from HR. I let it go to voicemail. 10:01 a.m. Nick posted on LinkedIn. Proud to announce. The post disappeared 30 seconds later. 10:03 a.m. A Patricia Hendricks CMO replied to my thread. We're looking into this immediately. Thank you for the information. 10:07 a.m. The TechCrunch journalist I'd been talking to. Can you verify these documents? This is front page material. 10:15 a.m. Valentra's main Twitter account, which usually posted every morning at 10, remained silent. By 10:30, my thread had 5,000 retweets. Marketing Twitter was in meltdown mode. Every woman who'd ever been overlooked, undermined, or underestimated was sharing their story with East for Revenge Unlocked. 10:47 a.m. TheraCore Health posted. In light of serious concerns raised about data privacy, we're postponing today's contract signing pending a full security audit. Patient privacy is our top priority. 11:15 a.m. My phone had 47 missed calls. Valentra's legal team, trying to reach me. Janet, increasingly frantic. Unknown numbers that were probably Nick. 11:32 a.m. The first news article dropped. Healthcare giant halts. 2.6 meter deal after anonymous whistleblower exposes data breach. By noon, Revenge Unlocked was trending. 1 by p.m. Erkis Valentra posted a hasty statement about taking all concerns seriously and launching an internal investigation. The replies were brutal, former employees emerging from the woodwork with their own stories. 2:30 p.m. I got a DM from someone at TheraCore's security team. We found the vulnerability. It's worse than you documented. Thank you for speaking up when no one internally would listen. 3:18 p.m. LinkedIn lunatics screenshotted Nick's deleted announcement post. The mockery was swift and merciless. 4:45 p.m. Valentra's stock price had dropped 7%. 6:10 p.m. The evening news picked up the story. When whistleblowing goes viral, how one tweet saved thousands of patients' private data. As I watched the explosion from my apartment, cold coffee in hand, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "This is Nick. Please call me. We can work this out." I screenshot the message and posted it to Twitter. He called me replaceable. Now he wants to work it out. Some cookies, gentlemen, bite back. 50,000 likes in an hour. The cookie jar, it turned out, had teeth. By the third day after my tweet, I'd become the ghost-haunting Valentra Digital's collapse. The media frenzy was beyond anything I'd imagined. Every major marketing publication wanted an interview with Star's digital truth-teller. I stayed silent, letting the evidence speak for itself. My anonymity was power. I could be anyone, everyone. The collective voice of dismissed women across the industry. Meanwhile, Valentra was hemorrhaging. 3 more clients pulled their contracts pending security audits. Senior staff started updating LinkedIn profiles. The board called an emergency meeting that lasted 14 hours. April 15th brought the news I'd been waiting for. Valentra Digital announces leadership restructuring following data privacy scandal. Nick Harmon mutually agreed to step down. Effective immediately, Marcus Valentra would be taking a temporary leave of absence. Janet from HR was notably absent from the company directory, but the sweetest vindication came from an unexpected source. I was at my favorite coffee shop in Capitol Hill, laptop open, watching the latest wave of Burzy Revenge Unlocked stories, when I received an email that made me freeze. From Nick, Harmony Personal Mail. Calm. Subject, you win. Madeline, I know it's you. The details, the timeline, the way you constructed the narrative. It's your strategic mind all over it. I'm writing to say, I'm sorry. Not the corporate, cover my ass, sorry. Actually sorry. I've been sitting in my empty apartment, Valentra owned my condo, turns out, thinking about that morning. Last cookie in the jar. Christ, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe they laughed. You want to know the pathetic truth? I was terrified of you. From day one. You saw through data what I could only guess at. You built relationships while I networked. You created strategies while I created presentations. I stole your work because I couldn't create it myself. I diminished you because your competence highlighted my incompetence. The boys' club protected me because we all protected each other from people like you, people who actually knew what they were doing. The security vulnerability? I didn't ignore it because I thought you were wrong. I ignored it because I didn't understand it. 3 years at Wharton, and I couldn't comprehend half of what you tried to explain. So I dismissed it as technical details and hoped it would go away. It didn't go away. None of it did. I've attached a document. It's my signed statement acknowledging that the TheraCore strategy was entirely your creation, that I knowingly took credit for your work, that you repeatedly warned about the security issues and were ignored. My lawyer says I'm an idiot for sending this, but I owe you at least this much. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a response. I just needed you to know that you weren't replaceable. You were irreplaceable, and I'm sorry it took burning down my entire career to see it. Nick. I read it 3 times. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer because, yes, I had one now. Several firms had reached out offering to represent me pro bono, smelling a wrongful termination suit that would make headlines. But I wasn't interested in court battles. I'd already won. That evening, I got another unexpected message. Patricia Hendricks from TheraCore wanted to meet. In person? Off the record. We met at a quiet restaurant in Cherry Creek. She looked tired but relieved. "I need to thank you," she said without preamble. "Our security team found 17,000 patient records exposed through that vulnerability. 17,000 people whose mental health searches, addiction recovery inquiries, and chronic illness research were being harvested and sold." She slid a folder across the table. "We would have signed that contract. I would have trusted Nick's assurances. Those patients would have paid the price for my lack of due diligence." Inside the folder was a job offer. TheraCore's new VP of Digital Security Strategy. The salary was double what Valentra had paid me. "We need someone who sees what others miss," Patricia said. "Someone who speaks up when it matters. Someone who can't be replaced." I looked at the offer. The number was staggering. The role was perfect. The vindication complete. "I'll think about it," I said. She smiled. "Of course. But Madeline, we know it's you. We've known since day one. Your strategic fingerprints were all over that Twitter thread, and we're grateful." That night, I posted my final tweet as Zero Digital Truth Teller. "To everyone who called you replaceable, they were wrong. To everyone who stole your work, we remember. To everyone who dismissed your warnings, the internet is forever. And to everyone still fighting, document everything. Your time will come." Revenge unlocked. I logged out of the account for the last time. Digital Truth Teller had served its purpose. Madeline Sawyer, however, was just getting started. 6 months later, I stood on the main stage at Denver's Digital Marketing Summit, looking out at 3,000 faces waiting to hear from the woman who'd burned down a giant with a single tweet. The MC's introduction still rang in my ears. And now, please welcome our keynote speaker, the person who turned an insult into $1 million collapse, Madeline Sawyer. The applause was thunderous. In the third row, I spotted Patricia Hendricks, now my boss at TheraCore, beaming with pride. Scattered throughout the audience were dozens of women wearing small cookie pins, a symbol that had emerged from Discharge's Revenge Unlocked, representing everyone who'd been dismissed as replaceable. I'd turned down the TheraCore offer initially, taking 3 months to launch my own consultancy focused on ethical digital marketing and data privacy. But when Patricia restructured the role to include building an industry-leading privacy-first marketing framework, with the freedom to publish and speak publicly about our work, I couldn't resist. "Good morning," I began, my voice steady. 6 months ago, I was called the last cookie in the jar by someone who thought I was easily replaceable. Today, I want to talk about why being underestimated might be the greatest strategic advantage you'll ever have. The presentation behind me showed a single tweet. The tweet. But first, let me tell you what happened after I hit send. I walked them through the aftermath. Valentra Digital's complete restructuring. The 43 other companies that discovered similar vulnerabilities after my thread went viral. The new industry standards for healthcare data privacy that emerged from the scandal. The $4.2 million in FTC fines Valentra eventually paid. Nick Harmon sent me an apology. I continued. He admitted everything, the theft, the fear, the incompetence masked as arrogance. Some people asked why I didn't feel sorry for him, why I didn't show mercy. I paused, meeting eyes across the room. Because mercy is earned through accountability, not desperation. For too long, we've been told to be grateful for seats at tables where we're served as the meal. We've been counseled to lean in when we should have been lighting matches. The next slide showed statistics. 67% of women in marketing had experienced idea theft. 84% had been excluded from key meetings. 91% had been told they were too emotional when raising legitimate concerns. The Nick Harmons of the world don't fear our incompetence. They fear our excellence. They diminish us not because we're replaceable, but because we're irreplaceable, and they know it. I shared the framework I'd developed at TheraCore, how we'd built the industry's first fully privacy-compliant marketing stack, how our campaigns now outperform traditional methods by 340%, how we'd become the case study taught at business schools. But here's what matters more than my vindication. the thousands of you who found your voice through the Warzir Revenge Unlocked, who documented the discrimination, who refused to be erased, who understood that sometimes the most professional thing you can do is burn it all down. The crowd erupted, standing ovation. As I wrapped up, I noticed someone in the back, familiar posture, expensive suit, Nick Harmon, trying to blend into the shadows. Our eyes met across the room. He nodded once, then slipped out the side door. I didn't mention him. He'd become irrelevant, a footnote in a larger story about power, voice, and the danger of underestimating the people who actually do the work. So here's my challenge to you, I concluded. Stop asking for permission to be excellent. Stop apologizing for knowing more than the person who took credit. Document everything, build your platforms. And when someone calls you replaceable, I smiled, thinking of that moment 4 weeks after the conference room humiliation, finger hovering over the tweet button. Remind them that cookies might crumble, but crumbs leave trails, and some trails lead straight to the truth. The ballroom exploded in applause, hundreds of women on their feet, many wiping away tears. In that moment, I wasn't just Madeline Sawyer. I was every woman who'd been overlooked, undermined, underestimated, later. At the book signing for my newly released Irreplaceable, A Guide to Strategic Revenge in the Digital Age, a young woman approached with tears in her eyes. I was called just the intern while presenting the campaign that saved my company, she said. Your story gave me courage to speak up. I'm now creative director. Thank you. One by one, they came, each with their own story of dismissal and triumph, each wearing their cookie pins with pride. As I signed the last book that evening, I thought about the journey from that windowless annex room to this stage, from easily replaceable to irreplaceable, from silence to voice. Nick had been wrong about one thing. I wasn't the last cookie in the jar. I was the first of many who refused to be consumed quietly. And we were just getting started. Thank you so much for listening to this story of sweet revenge. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below, and let's connect. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories of justice served cold, and share your thoughts about Madeline's journey. Have you ever been called replaceable? How did you prove them wrong? Let's discuss in the comments.